At some point, we as Americans need to ask ourselves, are we okay destroying the world? Because objectively, that's what's happening. The United States is actively kicking back civilization, decades, if not centuries at this point. We decided to drive a flaming taco truck right into the global energy transportation network. More than just that. At what point does ignorance no longer be allowable as an excuse? You saw the canceling of USAID led to 650,000 deaths. 500,000 of those deaths were children. I don't think that ignorance can be an excuse. I don't. And I think that at some point, Americans got to really check out, stop watching Fox News, stop watching CNN, stop looking as a political binary, and realize that the average American person, the average American working class individual who's just slogging it through day to day, trying to survive, has more in common with the average working class person from Canada, from France, from India, from China, than they do from people like Howard Lutnick, Donald Trump, Marco Rubio. These people are our leaders, but they're not from us. We need to understand that. Yesterday, we all got to watch an absolute shit show that was a victory lap coming from Washington, D.C., and the vast majority of people who have a 5th grade reading level but access to social media. We got to see them run a victory lap that was completely based on a fairy tale, based on just a whole feeding trough full of lies coming from the White House about an absolute surrender from Iran, complete capitulation, them giving up all access and control to the Strait of Hormuz, that everything's just fine, everything's going back to normal. America is the big dog in the dog park again. But we got parvo, and we're infecting everyone else with our radical actions. And the only reason why this country hasn't burned to the ground because of this is because America's so insulated. And I think that it's a great shame, and I think that it's absolutely grotesque and disgusting that the American people will measure the consequences, the good or evil, of geopolitical action, of warmongering, solely based off gas prices here in the United States. I would argue that if gas prices stayed at about $2.95 up until this point right now, you'd have a very positive public sentiment towards what's going on in the Middle East right now. We spent 25 years destroying countries all around the world. In fact, let's expand that. We've spent the past century destroying countries, destabilizing countries, changing regimes, leading to the deaths of millions of people all over the world. And the last time there was genuine outcry or pushback from the public in America was the Vietnam War in the 1960s and 70s. That's it. Ever since then, it's just been consumerism, baby. It's been about buying. That's what it's all about. It's been about the individual. So you would like to sit back and hope that once these things actually materialize in the United States, the consequences that go beyond just the fact that I got to spend a little bit more money at the gas station, that it would change some minds. But it really doesn't seem to be doing that. And this is a failure of the American people. Not just of the government, of the American people. We're so patient and sit back because we're not desperate. Or we refuse to believe that we're causing the rest of the world to be desperate. 45 million people are going to starve over the next 365 days. 45 million people, because we wanted to go play Pirates of the Persian Gulf with Iran. Everyone was celebrating yesterday because Iran said the Strait of Hormuz is open for business, ladies and gents, and Donald Trump sat back and was like, hey, hold your britches. We're going to blockade this shit. We have become the baddest of faith actors, the baddest, the most untrustworthy country on the planet. If no other country on the planet can trust our word, trust that we're actually going to carry ourselves in any kind of honorable fashion, Why would any other country want to deal with us? Those tankers that were supposed to be leaving the Middle East, going to our allies in Asia and Australia, those are desperately needed. Those places are teetering on the edge of collapse, right? Teetering on the edge of completely running out of fuel. I want you to imagine, my American viewers, I want you to imagine the absolute panic. If you were in your small town, you went to the Citgo and there was no gas. And you're like, well, this is weird. Then you go to Sheetz, you go to Wawa's, no gas. Well, what am I going to do? Then you go to the grocery store and 15% of the food that's usually there isn't there. Then 2 days later, 35% of the food that's usually there isn't there. Then a week later, it's pretty much empty shelves. This is becoming a reality in many parts of the world right now. And why? I'm still waiting to see where the benefit is for the American public. You want to talk about making sure that Iran never has the ability to have a nuclear weapon? Fine. You want to call me unpatriotic for saying that I want the proof because we saw all this shit play out with weapons of mass destruction before? You want to call me unpatriotic for that? I call it a cautious person who's learned from history. And that's the rest of the world. And that's the consequence of having a population where 21% is functionally illiterate, where 50 to 60% has the reading level of a fifth grader. The American public cannot make informed decisions because they don't have the education to do so. We are not bred to be thinkers. We're not trained to be thinkers. We are trained to be workers. No, we're not even that good at that. That's why we have to outsource all of our labor to immigrants. And then we turn around and say the immigrants are bad, and we're like, well, where's the food? Well, Johnny, you didn't go out and pick it now, did you? You sat back and posted on Twitter how the brown people are taking all the jobs, but once those jobs freed up, they just happen to be the jobs that you didn't want to take. It's a hard thing as an American, it's a hard thing as a veteran to look at your country now and see it for what it actually is. And I know I'm not alone. I know I'm not alone in the United States, and that's why you see so many people just kind of completely checking out on the entire American experiment at this point. That's why you have so many people in America who are trying to leave. That's why you have conscientious objectors in the military going up 1,000%. That's why more people are applying for visas, long stay visas in other countries than at any time in American history before. The truth is the American experiment has failed. And the stay and fight crowd is doing anything but fighting. They're just staying. What can you say? What can you say? The people who've been bragging for generations that we are the toughest, the strongest, that this is the land of the free and the home of the brave, have proven themselves to be the greatest cowards on the planet. The kind of extraction that's happened to the American people. You want to talk about the affordability crisis, how that's happened? It's because it was allowed to happen by the American voter, who either found himself too distracted, too busy, or fell back to the idea that, well, as long as I'm doing better than Jim next door, everything's working out as it should be. This is why you see solidarity in Canada. This is why you see NATO and the EU coming together, because there is a fundamental difference in their perspective when they look at the world as we and not me. America, why are we fine with burning down the rest of the world for a chance that we're going to come out on top? Not only should we not come out on top, but if we do find ourselves on top, we're going to be it's going to be a very lonely place for a nation that would not survive if it was lonely. All this talk about 100 tankers that are coming to America and everyone's buying from America, not realizing that America is reliant on other countries to send their heavy crude so we can mix it with our light crude and refine it. America's energy independent. No, we're not. There's so many regions in our country are completely dependent on Canada for their energy resources, electricity, fuel. The same thing, most of the produce that you get at the grocery store, where does it come from? Does it come from Iowa, Nebraska? Is that where your green peppers come from? No, it comes from Mexico. The only thing that we grow here is corn and soy, and most of that goes to feed animals. Animals that we eat. But those same animals that we're growing everything for is getting too expensive for most people to buy. There's people in America right now, many people, millions, tens of millions of people right now that have to choose whether they're going to put fuel in their tank or feed themselves. I was at the gas station the other day. $3.10. The person before me bought $3.10 in fuel. That would have made sense back in the 90s, right? That would have been almost 4 gallons. But that's not even a gallon now. That is how desperate people are. The thing is, because we're so proud and we don't want to let people see that we're suffering, we're willing to suffer in silence and let things get worse. It's the same thing with our healthcare. Working Americans die twice as often as people from Canada or Europe. It's because we won't go to the doctor, even if it's cancer. The reality is America has a kind of cancer, and it's metastasizing, and it's spreading, not just to the rest of the world, which yes, it is, but in our country itself. And it's stage 4. It's serious. You need chemotherapy. But we've decided not to treat ourselves. We just decided we're just going to leave it to Jesus and see what happens. Damn the consequences. Damn the other countries. Damn the billions of people on the planet. Damn the 500,000 kids who died. Damn the 45 million people who are going to starve. Damn the fact that the supply chain in Europe, our closest allies, is damn near shutting down because they have $10, $11 per gallon diesel. And farms are shutting down because they can't survive, they can't make a profit. What's happening in these other countries will happen here. And even if it didn't, right? Even if America was fine, is it worth it? Is it worth it for everyone else in the world to suffer except America? Because if that's your honest core belief, then you are a massive part of the problem and the reason why it's a valid statement to say that America is trying to destroy the world. Food for thought, everyone. Take care.